Hey all, talking to the void once more, and today I'm doing mixing it up a little bit. We're going to be doing a double feature since I missed recording yesterday, and today and yesterday's movies are connected. We're taking a little dip into the Conjuring verse with both The Nun and Annabelle Comes Home. Annabelle Comes Home is what I watched yesterday, The Nun today, so we'll hold off on that one for a second. So I've been following the Conjuring, I guess, cinematic universe now for ever since its inception, and I'm a big fan of the series overall. It's had some ups and downs, but generally it's one of the better modern series. The original Conjuring is one of the better horror films I've seen in recent days, and Conjuring 2 is up there. Um, for Annabelle Comes Home, first off, Annabelle was one of the better portions of the original Conjuring, so I guess it became. I wouldn't have expected it to get its own spin off sequel, but it did. So we had Annabelle, which explained the origins of the Annabelle doll. And that was. I'd say it was only okay. Other than one particularly effective elevator sequence, the movie itself was just pretty middle of the road. But then it followed up with a sequel, Annabelle Creation, which showed the story-wise it was a little convoluted. It showed the real creation of Annabelle, so the origin of the origin for what it's worth. As ridiculous as that sounds, the movie itself was actually very effective and interesting. The plot, while a little, like I mentioned, convoluted, was fascinating, and the movie was much better put together. So, Annabelle kept doing well, so we got a third one, Annabelle Comes Home. Now, this one isn't so much of another origin story. It's just mostly details Annabelle just being relocated to the Warrens' home. And if you're not familiar with the Conjuring series, it follows two paranormal investigators, the Warrens, which were based on an actual paranormal investigators who there's some controversy whether or not how legitimate their cases were, but their movie series have been quite good. So they took the Annabelle doll to their home, locked it away, and about a year later, the events of Annabelle Comes Home takes place. Their young daughter is being babysat near her birthday, and a friend of her babysitter invites herself over, starts as the Warrens' secret of what they actually do kind of is leaking out into the community, she wants to go in and see something scary. And, well, accidentally unleashes hell. Now, the premise is pretty basic, but in overall effectiveness, the movie it was good. It was actually, I preferred it better than Annabelle, and I would say even above Annabelle Creation. Annabelle Creation had a darker overall mood, but this movie was just fun. It was decently frightening, and like I said, it's kind of a good, just how to put it, sort of like a Halloween attraction sort of movie. It's not the scariest, but just wondering what's going to come at you next. It was a fun movie to watch. Now, I will say there wasn't too much I had an issue with in this movie overall. The acting is particularly good in this one, especially since they're using some younger actors. McKenna Grace, who's I'd say I'd best know her from The Haunting of Hill House, was kind of a standout here, but everyone else does pretty good as well. Now, in the beginning of the movie, I had a little bit of an issue with the friend of the babysitter. Daniela was her name, and she just seemed to be kind of a bratty bully of a friend. But as the movie goes on, you kind of see why she's doing what she's doing, as her father had recently passed, and she was trying to find something in the Warrens' house to make a connection with him. So you can see why she did what it was. It was overall effective at establishing her motivations. The Annabelle doll continues to be a creepy little thing, but interestingly enough, she almost seems to have taken a back seat in her own movie, as pretty much a lot of the random knickknacks and monster-related things in the Warrens' locked room just seem to take charge and be front and center. So Annabelle actually plays a bit of a more minor role, where entities such as Black Chuck, which they kind of deviated from the mythology and made it more of a werewolf sort of creature, and the Ferryman seem to take more of center stage. But there's a few other little weird things going on too, with a like haunted board game called Beely Mealy and a haunted TV. But overall, despite her minor role, her scenes are effective. I will say the way The Conjuring keeps spinning off things. I haven't seen yet the Curse of La Llorona, so I don't know how that factors into everything, but The Conjuring spun off Annabelle, The Conjuring 2 spun off The Nun, which we'll get to in a little bit, and then I think Conjuring 2 almost was advertising spinning off another one, so part of Annabelle creation here did seem to almost be setting the Ferryman up for his own movie, so he just almost focus on him, but enough to be intriguing. It just seemed to be baiting another spin-off, which, I'll be honest, the monster does look scary, and I would be interested in learning more about him, but his setup here just seems unnecessary overall. They don't do enough with him in this movie to make him worthwhile, and in all honesty, I'd just be on board if they just made a Ferryman movie and just mentioned it was part of the Conjuring verse, and that's all I would have needed. But yeah, this is, of all the Conjuring related movies, I'd actually put Annabelle Comes Home at my second favorite, just beneath The Conjuring. Though it depends on more what I'm in the mood for, I suppose. Conjuring 2 for more of a serious scary movie, this one for just some haunted house shenanigans. So we'll move right along to The Nun, which was set up quite a bit in Conjuring 2. The demon nun Valak was one of the primary antagonists throughout all of Conjuring 2, and this one gives us its origin, sort of. This movie is, I'd say, one of the more unnecessary movies. I mean, I guess I can't really call the original Annabelle spin-off that necessary either, but a lot of the backstory that's established here in The Nun doesn't really add more to what we know already about it, and like the Warrens themselves only play like a very minor bit part at the end just to tie it in. And the movie itself it's very middle of the road. There's nothing that really sets it apart. The location is creepy, but The Nun itself doesn't do nearly as much in terms of eliciting decent scares. There's a jump scare once or twice, and a few effective moments of the nun just looming in the background, but Annabelle Comes Home did a much better job at managing those sorts of things, with having ghosts just lurking just out of sight of the characters while you were waiting for things to happen. The Nun just seemed a little bit more slapdash, I guess. There were a few interesting scenes, and I can't say I was bored during it, but there was nothing really grabbing me like the original Conjurings or Annabelle Comes Home did, or even the excessive backstory for Annabelle creation. So this one I'd actually put kind of close to the bottom. If I was ranking the Conjuring series, so far it'd be Conjuring at the top, followed by Annabelle Comes Home, Conjuring 2, Annabelle Creation, then we hit The Nun, and then down to the original Annabelle spin-off. I keep saying original and spin-off like it's a thing. Blech. Okay, so this movie, other than its complete unnecessariness, didn't really add anything to the mythology that we couldn't have just assumed. I guess the nun was, or I suppose Valak was trapped beneath this monastery after a sorcerer tried summoning him into our world, but was prevented, and a convent sprung up around it to keep the monster sealed. Then there was... Ooh, my cat is shaking the camera. She wants to say hi again. I had her on once, and now she's becoming a diva. Right. You didn't care for these movies either. You weren't even paying attention. Bye. Okay. Anyway, The Nun. See, that's the thing. I'd rather talk about Annabelle. Annabelle Comes Home. The Nun just wasn't as interesting. Um, I guess there's not really too much more to add. I was saying some World War, or I think it was World War II bombings that would have unleashed it, if I'm reading the timeline correctly. But and then its power was awoken, and it slowly took over the abbey. Our main characters are there to investigate the abbey. A nun that just is about to take her vows, a priest who is a miracle hunter slash exorcist, and their local guide Frenchie. Yes, they call him Frenchie throughout the movie. He's French Canadian, and that's his shtick. He's actually one of the better parts of the movie, though. He's decently entertaining, and the father's no nonsense attitude was good. The characters were good in this movie for the main three. I just wish there was more here that for them to work with. I wouldn't mind seeing like a follow up with them as they all kind of leave together, them on the road. That could be interesting, but I don't know if there's much of a story there. I just would like to see more done with these characters, but as this one's set a good 20 years, I think, before the rest of the series, I don't imagine it's going to have much more of an impact. Alrighty, so I think that's it for this one. Double shot today, and we'll check back again tomorrow as we continue the month.